Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's now time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. First, we take a peek through the papers. The Nation newspaper, weighs in on the certificate scandal, where we got to understand that Naji has resigned ministerial position. Next is This Nigeria. Mr. President, I resign, not me, because I'm not even holding any political position to start with. Tinubu accepts resignation of Minister Naji over allegations of certificate forgery. Ex-minister blames political detractors. Leadership newspaper, alleged certificate forgery. Science minister says the same thing. Certificate forgery scandal. Naji pulls out. Tinubu accepts resignation. Blueprint newspaper, INEC Chair Yakubu makes history, hands over to Agbamoche Mbu after 10 years. Presents 2 books on election management, innovations in electoral technology. Tinubu confers CON on outgoing electoral umpires boss. The Punch newspaper, countdown to 2027. Tinubu to pick new INEC chair this week. Yakubu steps aside. President consults Council of States. Selection process under spotlight. The Daily Times, Tinubu seeks National Assembly's approval for new $2.3 billion external borrowing, $500 million sovereign sukuk. And then the Guardian newspaper, North Central, looks at security matters. Anxiety lingers over insecurity, fate of displaced persons. And the Platform Times also speaks to security, but then this time, welfare. Police widows, they demand sex before paying our husbands gratuities. That's police widows making serious allegations there. The Sport and Life, battle against Lesotho. Shell rejigs Eagles defense. Ajayi to pair Bassi in central defense. Frederick gets right back role. All right, let's dive into these newspapers and then, we dissect them.
Exactly.
Etoma, Ria, Olamide, I'll be happy to do this with you guys,
We're more than happy. Bring it on.
Day out. So yesterday we looked at the moral aspect, the ethical aspect of the Minister of Science and Innovation, holding on to his position with all this scandal. I understand that you were saying that first and foremost, he should resign. But if you look at the Nation newspaper, This Nigeria, Leadership newspaper, New Nigeria News Direct, they all say, he said, Mr. President, I have resigned. And you think it's an honorable thing to do, you think?
Oh, yes, I believe it's very honorable for you to resign in a situation like this because sitting down there and more things that... the funny thing about all these scandals is that people will throw allegations. So whether there's evidence to back it up or not, it doesn't really matter. It will trend. There will be a whole lot of noise and all that. So by his resignation, he has cooled down the polity, which is very instructive. So now, whatever investigative body, court or so on, can do their jobs without any kind of interference. So I want to give accolades to him for having the courage to resign. And you have to understand that with the kind of position he holds in the present administration, apart from the ministerial thing, he has quite some influence in his party, the APC. He can still do a whole lot of things without being a minister.
I missed out on one of our programs last night, but I understand that there was someone on the show that was defending the minister's, certificate, and then our anchor told the person, this person you're defending has resigned, and the person was like, what?
I watched that. But you know the thing, science and technology is not a joke. The position that he held is not a joke. Right. It's not a position that, you will forge certificates for. That means if you're in office, you won't be able to handle what you're given. And this is not me trying to throw shades on at him. I thought that when this thing happened, he was going to bring out evidence. If you come and tell me that, Ria Abdul, you didn't go to this particular university, I'll go and bring out my documents and show you that I went to the university. So allegedly, it's looking like it is true. Not me saying it's looking like that. But I'm happy that he resigned because at the end of the day, if he didn't resign, it was going to be a big dent on his integrity. And I feel like this is something that should give a precedence to people to see that before you get to political positions, you need to make sure that your documents are correct. If you don't have the documents, then you're not fit for that position.
Absolutely. Olamide, Premium Times actually, led this investigation.
Absolutely.
Being able to ferret out, whatever it is that had happened. But the problem there is that it's an allegation because it has not been confirmed that whatever it is, because he's also defending, he has gone to court. But is it okay that each time anyone is alleged for doing any alleged for wrongdoing, the person has to resign? What if it is a lie?
But then you will have brought evidence, actually.
There is no one that would give up power,
Yes.
especially not, unfortunately, an African or Nigerian leader, if there were not some salt, if there were not some heaviness or some strength behind these allegations. For him to give up a ministerial role, it means that something is going on in the back scene. But I do want to commend Premium Times. It reminds me about the fire of the Fourth Estate, the importance of the journalistic work that we do here, telling stories and exposing ills in society. And it reminds me of old school journalism. When journalism was journalism. I also want to add, I think very quickly, it's amazing that the University of Nsukka, Nigeria, and NYSC have distanced themselves from this. I love that our institutions are becoming bolder in defending their integrity. In fact, even the president's willingness to accept his resignation so quickly, it signals that there's zero tolerance for certificate forgery. On the other hand, it does put pressure on this administration to vet their future appointees much better and much more thoroughly.
And there's no smoke without fire. That's where I stand.
That's
why
why
you see smoke, fire is somewhere. So for him to resign, I'm sure he knows that there's some skeletons in his cupboard.
Well, maybe.
Don't be found wanting.
That's why the DSS and then the Senate, they really have a whole lot of burden on them to ensure that whoever
you
is
need
going
to
go
vet
through
the
them,
people
they
properly,
have to
making sure that all the certificates are real.
Back in the day, you have a nominee sent to the Senate, and after some interviews and investigations, they deny the nominee the position. But we don't see a lot of that now.
Yeah.
That means that they have to sit up and do.
And it's a big lesson, actually.
He's not the first to have left the position. But I do also, had to resign as a result of, scandal, when it comes to humanitarian department.
And education is not something you joke with, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Blueprint newspaper. INEC chair Yakubu makes history, hands over to Agbamoche Mbu after 10 years. Present 2 books on election management, innovation in electoral technology. Countdown to 2027, Tinubu to pick new INEC chair this week. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has received 2 resignations, just in a day. That of Uche and that of... But they have different circumstances.
Yeah, of course. Very different.
Each of them is stepping down very differently.
So just a very, very quick, contribution to this. The INEC, the EU actually recommended about 23 different items to the Independent National Electoral Commission following the fallout of the 2023 elections. INEC was able to implement the administrative aspect of it. Others, the buck stops on the table of the Senate, as well as, security agencies and all of that. So we want to see someone of integrity to be elected, to be picked by the president and approved by the Senate.
First things first, I'd like to point this out that Agbamoche Mbu might not be there for up to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because Mr. President is already shopping for a replacement. And
he said shopping.
He shops well in the market.
That's what
That's
he's
right.
doing.
That's right.
And the process has started. And
in earnest.
And it's moving very fast.
Yeah.
So I am looking at a situation where we might hear a name sometime next week, sometime late next week. So Agbamoche Mbu will not be the one under the fire during elections. If you remember, Mahmoud also went through a whole lot of heat. And that is where I want to commend the man, because all through the heat, he kept his cool.
Absolutely. And such person has to be 50 years of age, a Nigerian, someone who understands the law. So we shouldn't be surprised if eventually Etoma's name is mentioned.
Well, I will not because I know Etoma has all the integrity, so I know that it's going to be a free and fair election. But for me, what I'll say to Mr. President is, whoever we're picking, we know how crucial 2027 is going to be. We cannot make a mistake in who we're picking. We need to make sure that we pick the right person, because that is going to mess us up. We all know what INEC stands for. Very important when it comes to electoral in Nigeria. Yes, they were speaking about the fact that we're going to bring electoral offences, for people that do criminality during
That's
election process. So I just feel like the person he picks has to go through thorough investigation. We need to make sure this person can stand the test of time. And first of all, we need to make sure that this person will have integrity. You know what I'm talking about?
And
No bribery, no corruption. This is a person that must be true and just.
All right, Olamide, let's move on to the Daily Times. Tinubu seeks National Assembly's approval for new $2.3 billion external borrowing and $500 million sovereign sukuk. We've seen governments of previous administrations, making borrowings. Talk about sukuk, for instance. You see roads, infrastructure, because sukuk is a non-interest loan backed by infrastructure and then profit sharing and all of that. But this is an administration that's saying, we've actually paid back our borrowing, no more borrowing, but then we are going to borrow. Borrowing is not a problem, according to business experts, but how you use the proceeds is actually what matters.
Absolutely. This is, if you ask me, it's history repeating itself. We saw that in 2018 under Buhari, Nigeria also issued a 2.86 billion in Eurobonds to plug budget gaps. This is not new. But what's worrying is that we're no longer just borrowing to build. We're borrowing to repay old debts and old loans. And so it now shows us that this borrowing is structural as opposed to exceptional. And that's worrying.
So, but then this administration will say that we've been able to substantially pay back, most of the loans, outstanding loans, and then we're making much more, generating much more revenue because of the removal of fuel subsidy. We're also diversifying the economy, with breaking in more money. And by 2026, the new tax regime will also take effect. So much so that we're able to make more money and then pour it back into the system. But what's your own view regarding this new, chance to borrow?
You see, all the things you reeled out is to a whole lot of people is the reason why they're asking, do we need this money? Why are we borrowing again? And then when Nigerians, especially opposition, once borrowing comes to the fore, you've given people like 58 different reasons to criticize the administration. The headline didn't really go deep into it. So he just told us the figure that the federal government wants to borrow. Why the federal government wants to borrow it is not there, except you read the story itself. For a government that has been able to clear our debts, a government that has been able to stabilize the economy, a government that is taking visible steps on growing the economy. Borrowing right now, I don't think it's a bad thing.
But Ria, if you look at, as a comment, if you look at just to dig deep into why they're going to borrow, they explain that the 2025 budget provides for $9.27 billion in total new borrowings to finance the year's fiscal deficit, out of which $1.84 billion, that's 1.23 trillion naira at an exchange rate of 1,500 to the dollar, was earmarked for external loans. So it's still within the precinct of the budgetary allocations and all of the things. But now they're pegging it as against 1,500 to the dollar. But one thing they have to do is to ensure that they stabilize the foreign exchange, so much so that it comes down and then it helps them to repay these loans. Because if it goes up again, that's big money.
And Ibrahim, I don't have a problem with borrowing. My only problem is, are we borrowing for the right thing? And how are we paying back? When we talk about borrowing Nigeria, that's the only thing I think about. Because you cannot say there's a country that will say they will never borrow again. It's not possible. In one way or the other, you will still need help, from outside. But then again, when we borrow in Nigeria, accountability, that is my problem. Do we follow through with what we borrow? Do we make sure we're able to pay the money back? And Ibrahim, I know you mentioned one day that, some people will give you money that they know you cannot pay back. You will struggle to pay that money. And at the end of the day, you find out why did you even borrow the money? So all I want to say to the federal government is, I don't have a problem with borrowing, but I just want to make sure that you know what you're borrowing for, and you don't just borrow because you can borrow or you have to borrow.
Absolutely. It's very sweet to borrow.
But paying back is the problem.
As I would say, let me go back to that Akan proverb. Now, when you borrow a mat, you do not stretch your leg.
No, but because for sure people, they can. Probably I will stretch my leg.
If you borrow a cow from an old woman, you handle the order of the cow very, very carefully. Because the woman will tell you, why are you handling it roughly? It's also an Akan program from Ghana. All right, then, just stay with us here on TVC Breakfast. We'll be right back to continue on what the papers are saying. Just stay with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast. We've been talking about what the papers are reporting, for today. And then we also have this conversation with Etoma, Ria Olamide, who are giving their own reviews of different items of these papers. So let's move on to the Guardian newspaper this time round. Talk about the insecurity in the North Central. Anxiety lingers over insecurity, fate of displaced persons. Etoma, if you see, talk about Plateau State, Kwara State, Kogi State, Nasarawa, etc. They are facing serious, insecurity problems, from Boko Haram to bandits. We just talked about the Patiji in Kwara State, Edu, local government, where we had some people being killed, some people being also kidnapped for ransom. How do you think we can grow this economy, grow this country when insecurity is just lurking in the corner like a beautiful bride?
The federal government has to show political will, in fighting insecurity. I'm happy that Mr. President has started meetings with State Policing Committee and so on and so forth. You remember he cut short his vacation, to come give some attention to this insecurity thing. Look, this insecurity is not impossible to end. It all has to do with the posture of the federal government. We have so many security experts that have been in the field. They have an idea of what is happening there. They see the diagram like a picture, and they can navigate Nigeria out of it. Is for the government to accept their advice and show political will. And let me tell you, for this to happen, a lot of big heads will roll. That's why the political will is needed. That no matter who you are, if you are connected to this insecurity that has brought our image further down, you have to go.
Ria,
that is the stance that will work.
Ria, we need to do a whole lot, to ensure that we position ourselves as a country that has, that has very serene environment. We don't have insecurity challenges, so that someone from the US or from the West will not be saying that Muslims are killing Christians or Christians are killing Muslims, but humans are those ones that are being killed here.
Exactly. And you remember the conversation I had with the guest yesterday. You saw how passionate I was when we were talking about insecurity. I told him, if we know those people that are doing this thing, this is the time for us to call names. Because at the end of the day, those names that we're keeping, more people are dying. And talking about insecurity in Nigeria is quite scary. Ibrahim, I tell you, even as a close place as Ghana, you hear, Alata Mukunko. That's what you hear. They're killing people in Nigeria. You have to come to Nigeria to explain to people. I know how many times I said, it's not that bad, and all of that. I just hope that we get to a point in Nigeria where we can fight this, holistically, because at the end of the day, people are dying, and these people that are dying are not just normal people. They are people's brothers and sisters, people's mothers. And remind me the name of our guest yesterday. Umaru. He said he has some things to say, but I'm like, why don't you go to the people? And then he said some of these politicians, they are not welcoming. But why wouldn't they be welcoming in situations like this? We also heard what the Zamfara governor had said. Like, when a governor says this, I'm wondering, why is he saying this and nothing is being held? We spoke about state policing. We've been speaking about it. What is finally happening with it? We've not gotten to a common ground on state policing as well.
That's right.
It's quite scary. I think that most of the times we just talk, but at the end of the day, we do not put any action. We do not implement anything.
Olamide, let's race onto the platform times. Police widows, they demand sex before paying her husband's gratuities. Protesters storm National Assembly, accuse officials of exploitation. This time round, sexploitation. Call for end to contributory pension scheme, demand justice. So it is one challenge or one problem that the people who are paying dues, or how do I put it? People are laying down their lives for the integrity of Nigeria. And then you have their wives asking for the rights of their husband, the rights of their families. But those who are supposed to give it to them are demanding for sex, according to them.
Absolutely. Once again, the female form and women in our society find themselves victims of violence, sexual exploitation, shame. This is absolutely unacceptable.
That's right.
And for these women to come out, there's a lot of shame that surrounds sex in our society. For a woman to come out and say, I was raped or I was harmed sexually, it takes a certain level of exploitation and being tired of that dynamic to come out and speak. And kudos to them. I just want to touch on the last headline that you spoke about. You said the fate of displaced persons. Oftentimes, we're so focused on terror and bloodshed, we don't look at the people that are at the helm of this terror, the people that are the victims of this terror. And when we think about the concept of terror, it's not just happening on the front lines of war, it's happening in everyday women's Nigerians' lives, like these police widows who are suffering and who are calling for help. Something has to be done.
Ibrahim.
Although I saw somebody on Twitter say, their husbands are constantly collecting bribery from us and they're exploiting us. What goes around comes around. That rhetoric is very
does
terrible.
not come around. But Ibrahim, I
want to correct that.
I just quickly want to touch on this, and I'm going to be very brutal with this. If you are a man and you are telling a woman to do this before you pay, a husband, a big shame on you. Because sometimes I feel like we are the ones doing ourselves, and we will be talking, the government. But when we have power, what do we do? How condescending can you be to say that a woman should give you sexual favors for you to pay her? Didn't her husband do the job? There are just some things that I feel like we need to change our mentality too as well. There's a lot of mind shifting that we have to do, because this is sad.
I do not know the craze for this exploitation. I don't understand. It's just
let the woman give it to you freely.
It's about power, Ibrahim. It's about power.
It's about power. It's about men that have demented minds
and low ego.
Look, listen. This man was a police officer. Unfortunately, he died.
Yeah.
And
in the line of duty.
In the line of duty. And the law says there are monies you must pay the family. In this case, the wife, who now becomes the head of that family. And you are asking for sexual gratification before that.
This is horrible.
Excuse me. These women should, I wish one or two of them recorded the transaction and bring it out. These are the kind of cases that I will expose so heavily and deal with the culprit publicly.
And Etoma, when we say power, I feel like as a man, if you put somebody under Durex, to have the person, you have no power. You have failed as a man.
And this,
you have
this
totally
is just
failed.
synonymous with these widows. Every woman in Nigeria, most of us can say that at some point, something that was owed us, whether it was a job or a salary based on our merit, in return, we're asked for our bodies. This is very true.
So who should act? We have the Police Service Commission. We have the President.
Absolutely. Ministry of Women Affairs.
Ministry of Human Affairs.
This is where they need to step in, actually.
Yes.
We have the press.
We have the press.
And that is what we're doing.
Actually, the fourth state of the realm. So all of this all together, because we are asking people. We know that we have small little hands, little boots on the ground, fighting insecurity and all of that. We are also looking to recruiting more hands into the police force, the army. But if people who are already paying their dues are dying this way, and they are having this to experience from their grave, their families, that they left behind, how do we expect people to say, yes, I'm a patriotic Nigerian and I have to fight for my country by joining the force?
That question is so hard to answer that we have to try and dance around it, because giving a straight answer would be a little bit difficult. On the flip side of this, if the officer was a policewoman that passed on and the husband goes for the same thing, they will ask the man for money. They'll ask for bribes. So at the core of this thing is a mentality that allows corruption to be shameless, so to say. So we need a mental revolution.
We strongly need it.
We also need a lot of enforcement, and I'll put it on the table of the Police Service Commission. You guys are the be all and know all as far as the police is concerned. So, don't we have internal affairs in Nigerian police? The department that investigates police officers and their conduct.
But what about the Ministry of Women Affairs, actually? What are they doing about this? I feel like sometimes we have all these ministries, but we need to start holding them accountable. Like, if you are being put in a position, you need to do something. Like, hearing this story really breaks my heart, because people need to understand that women are more than just their bodies. There are a lot of things we can offer, but it's so sad that oftentimes, and not just even in the police, in everywhere in life, sometimes they cut us short because of this. And it really irritates me. I feel like it's high time that Olamide, I need to do, what do they even call it?
Some awareness.
Awareness, and also I need to do like an investigative journalism where I bring out all these people. I think
that's why I'm a journalist.
No, I think it's high time. Because sometimes you wonder, you don't want to bring this thing out because how would they accept it? The judiciary process is slow. But I feel like we need to look into it head on, because it's sad. No woman should ever give her body, for something to get something in favor. No woman deserves that.
I wish we could, go on and on and on, because this is something that we're very passionate about, something that is very disturbing. And we just hope that those in authority, take very decisive action.
Ibrahim, let me guess, you're about to tell us Osimhen.
Unfortunately, your guess is wrong.
Okay.
Sporting Life says, Shell, looking at the battle against Lesotho, we want to defeat everything that is coming from the south. South Africa, Lesotho, Eswatini, Botswana, etc. But Shell rejigs Eagles defense. Ajayi to pair Bassi in central defense. Frederick gets right back row. And Super Eagles camp update. Osimhen.
He's our guy. Osimhen is our guy.
So. It will be 15 others report for duty. So we see how these guys are going to.
Yes, we're going to be playing in Polokwane, and then we're also going to play Benin Republic. So I will be watching Osimhen.
No, but the thing is that when Nigeria is playing, I'm always scared when Nigeria is playing. I'm checking my BP, I'm checking my ads. I'm scared because at the end of the day, these players, they do not give us that energy, like that energy that we need.
Yeah, especially what they display outside Galatasaray, different Chelsea.
Yeah. You see them do so well there, but when they come, it's like,
what I hear is that we have to win but two matches back to back for us to be comfortable.
Polokwane and Benin Republic.
Now that's scary.
I know the players know this, and that should be their driving force when they're playing.
Let's go, boys.
Amen. Let's go, Victor.
I love that. So it's on that spirit, the high spirit that we end in this newspaper review segment. We believe that we've done the best to motivate our Super Eagles player, the team, as well as updating Nigerians regarding what the papers have reported today. Coming up on TVC Breakfast, innovation meets infection control. We'll discuss how technology is saving lives and cutting malaria cases across Africa. Stay with us for this conversation. We'll be right back.